So on behalf of the Ahahui o na Kauka, and behalf of the Edith Kanaka'ole Foundation, and also Halau o ke kuhi, we really want to say that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us, Kaukahui, to give you the knowledge that most of us are seeking in our daily lives, in our practices, and to have the honor to present and the privilege Pualani, Dr. Pualani Kanaka'ole Kanahele. And so she comes from a generation, and we talk 7 generations, but it's 10 generations where the whole traditions of Pele, the living God, as you can see, continues. And you know, have the opportunity to stand on the shoulders of and to continue the work of the master scientist, the master practitioner. We are really, really, you know, can make a difference. And when we first asked Dr. Kanahele, could you address us? Could you talk to us? Could you teach us about well-being? I said no. She said, what do I know? But you know, when you look at the well-being of our earth, and there's nothing that epitomizes the story as well as Dr. Kanahele, the well-being of earth, the well-being of ourselves, and the well-being of our patients, our communities. And so holistically, we can't think of anything else better than Dr. Kanahele, Auntie Pua, if you're privileged. But our generation is so learning from her and her families that we're really proud to kind of like be part of her today. Thank you.
Aloha kakayaka yaka koa pau. Means good morning to us. I am not real happy about being here because I heard that you're all you are medical doctors, and I look at medical doctors as very intelligent people. And but I am grateful to be here. And I'm grateful because I am able to share the intelligence and the perspective and the understanding of my kupuna, my ancestors, that has been passed on down with you, and hopefully with your ancestors as well, those ancestors that always come with you and are always with you. I believe that we always take them with us wherever we go, and I'm sure a pile of them are with you at this time. So I'm grateful to be able to share what we have as Hawaiians with the rest of you who have come here to meet, and I hear that you're meeting about climate change and about the environment, and that everything you saw and you heard this morning is about our environment. The kipai pai that my daughter Kekuhi led you in this morning, that was about our environment. The chants that you heard my daughter Hui leading you in this morning, that was about our environment. And so we have a conscious that constantly feeds upon what is around us, who is around us, and how we treat this partner that we have, that we call environment. My talk today is Inoa Kūpainaha. And Inoa Kūpainaha means, I have to read it because thank you. I have to read it because I forget what it is. Inoa Kūpainaha is profound nomenclatures. And when I say nomenclatures, I'm talking about elemental nomenclatures. Okay, I have to put this water down. So I want the pictures or the images that I'm showing along with my presentation has to do with the presentation as well. And this image is of Mauna Kea. And Mauna Kea is the highest mountain that we have here. We have two large mountains. Mauna Kea is the highest, and Mauna Kea is like the heartbeat for this island. It is the birthplace of this island. And so at this time, it is the part of this island that sees that we have the proper weather and that we stay away from hurricanes and that we have a portion of this island that is still growing. And this we all owe to Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa. And you see the snow on the mountain, the idea that we always have rain because of these mountains. And so the mountains are sacred places. And they are the heartbeat of our mountains. And so I show this because they are what I'm going to be talking about today. And I'm going to be talking about environment. And as I said, when I say nomenclatures, I mean environmental nomenclatures, because you're going to hear me saying the word nomenclature, nomenclature, nomenclature. And I really am talking about the environment and not about somebody down the street. Okay, the Hawaiian in his wisdom and his deep thought and his thought process all of this kinds of things were encased in a very lengthy list of nomenclatures. And you can find knowledge and wisdom almost any place. However, nomenclatures was used in chants a lot, and chants were repeated over and over and over again. And chants were composed to be repetitious. And so therefore, the nomenclatures within the chants forced us to use these over and over again. It doesn't matter when the chants were created, and it was created a long time ago. The chants that you heard today, that both of my daughters were using in the different ceremonies or the different presentations, were created eons ago. And but the nomenclature still exists in these chants. So chants are a excellent way to pass these on down, because chants are made in an abbreviated form or a abridged form of literature. And our kupunas used this abridged form of literature to house informative, important information. And informative, important data was the nomenclatures. And so the idea of chants being used over and over again is a way of calling out to the environment, and hopefully the environment has ears and they will respond. And so there is a reciprocal relationship building up between the people of the place, and in our case the islands, and the environment around us. The nomenclatures identify taxonomy and of elemental energies, also identifies natural forces, which basically are same thing. It also identifies substantial foundations, whether it is tangible or non-tangible. And so this extensive list that we had, and it is an extensive list, in fact, 99% of our nomenclatures are about the environment. This extensive list that we have indicates that the Hawaiian understood his environment or her environment and understood it to the point of the necessity of survival out here in the middle of the ocean. We have a little island, we have a huge ocean, so we have to survive. We have to survive for generations, okay? And so they use these nomenclatures over and over and over again as one of the means of survival for themselves. These elemental forces or life forces were a means of longevity for Papahanaumoku, and I'll explain Papahanaumoku a little bit later, but Papahanaumoku are the live beings that are produced procreation through generative cycles and also procreating lives. I forgot all about that because I'm old, and my husband died long ago, so procreating is not something, I jump into every day. Nomenclatures, again, of the environmental nomenclatures, again, where in order for us to understand it today, because we live in a different time, but we live in the same space that our ancestors lived in. So that's a benefit to us in order to understand the nomenclatures. Because we pay attention to what's around us in order to be able to bring an older language into today's world. And so in order to do that as well, we have to deconstruct the nomenclatures. And we have to deconstruct it for its taxonomical product, and also for its taxonomical property, rather, and for the product that it produces, and then for the effect that it has. Okay, and so I just gave you Hawaiian Nomenclature 101, and we talked about where the nomenclatures are found, and they're found in chants. We talked about how they're passed down, and they're passed down by what we saw today with my daughters chanting and my grandchildren dancing. And my sister is usually the head of the halau, or the dance school, but she had to go on another island to participate in something else over there, so she wasn't here. So my daughter is, who was the lead chanter in that. And, but they're the ones that actually carry on this practice that we have. But the nomenclatures that are deconstructed today is what we do in order to understand what our kupunas were talking about. Okay, so we can translate it literally, but it's difficult to just tear it apart and actually see what it's doing. When we were growing up as little children and people used to translate our chants, they always left the nomenclatures in its regular form as a Hawaiian word, and they didn't break it down for us. And even if they were doing research or they were writing a narrative and using the nomenclatures in it, they understood something about what the nomenclatures were saying, but they never broke it down. And so what happened then is, when we have all of these nomenclatures, as I said, a long list of them, we have 4 main gods, and then we have 40 gods, and then we have 400 gods. They looked at these nomenclatures as gods and goddesses, and then we had 4,000 gods and goddesses, and we had 40,000 gods and goddesses, and pretty soon we have 400,000 gods and goddesses. And so they broke down the environment, so it was very detailed. as to what was happening around them. So we had all these gods and goddesses, and I'm sure my mother and father are one of the 400,000 gods and goddesses, and my husband is one of the 400,000 gods that's still alive and doing what they're supposed to do somewhere else. But what we do have to do, and we continue to do today in order to understand it, is to deconstruct it. And so we deconstruct it, look at each word within a nomenclature and try to pull out what they were talking about. The benefit of us is that we live in the same space that they lived in. And we continue to see the same things that they did. The times have changed, but the space still remains the same. Okay. And so I'm going to introduce you to some nomenclatures right now. Hello. Okay, this picture was taken about a week ago from a helicopter. And by my daughter Hui, that was doing the chanting for hula, and because we have another project up on a mountain, on Mauna Loa, but she was flying over the native forest, and this is a native forest. And it's native forest early in the morning, so what you see is mist rising up from it. Okay, so you want to look at everything in the picture, because the nomenclatures that I'm going to talk to you about right now, or going to share with you right now, has to do with what you're seeing in front of you. Hello? Sir? The nomenclature is not coming. There you are, a little late. Well, it's old and it's been around for a long time, so give it time, it'll come. Kane I Kavaiola. Let's say Kane I Kavaiola. Mai kailoa. Kane I Kavaiola is divided into 5 words. You have Kane, and then you have I Kavaiola. Kane is the elemental energy. Ika tells you that it's producing something. And what it's producing is vai. And then Ola tells you that it is the product, it is the effect of the vai. So Kane we have to figure out what kind of energy is Kane that it can produce vai. And vai is fresh water. And Ola is life. So fresh water is what it produces, and life is what comes, it's the effect of the fresh water, hydration. Okay. We figured out that Kane is heat. And heat in the atmosphere, in the cosmos, comes from the sun, of course. We also have heat in the earth. And our kupunas had Kane names for up here and Kane names for in the earth. And Kane names for things that grow. All of this has to do with heat and the light of the sun, but the heat that comes from the earth and the heat that comes from the sun as well. So Kane is heat. And the heat produces the water, and water provides life. Okay, and so that's how we broke down that, deconstructed that. Thank you. That's how we deconstructed this particular name. How much time do I have anyway? I have all day. This next word is Kūpainaha. moku hali'i. Say ku moku hali'i. There's 3 words there. One is ku. And so ku is the elemental energy. And moku is another portion. And what it produces or what it has. And hali'i. Mohu is a land piece or a separate land piece, something that is separated. And hali'i means that it's covered. And what is it covered with? It's covered with ku. And so ku is the upright trees. But ku in its interpretation means to grow upward. It doesn't mean to grow outward. It means to grow upward. It means ascension. So at certain times in a chief's life, he will take on the persona of Ku and have all these Ku gods around him. And that's when he's getting ready to become the ruling chief and the fighting chief. And it all has to do with ascension. And so that Ku idea takes on those kinds of things. The moving up of the trees, as growing up of the trees, as well as the ascension of an idea or the ascension of oneself. When a child grows up, kuana. When the trees grow up, kuana. They're growing upward. And so, ku moku hali'i as a nomenclature means forest. It is our forest, and is a really special name for our forest. So most of these nomenclatures are sacred names, and probably one of the reasons they didn't break it down. Another reason is they didn't know how to break it down. My parents' generation and my grandparents' generation. Okay. Now, these 2 names are male forms. So you have male forms and then you have female forms. This one is a female form, and this is Laka. And Laka has to do with the procreative possibilities of the forest. And because she has to do with the procreative possibilities of the forest, she also has to do with the wetness of the forest. And that, as you look at Laka's name, it has Ika in it, and so it's something that Laka is producing. And Laka is producing Ohu. And the mist in there is Ohu. Ohu is an ascending mist. It comes from transpiration, and the liquid or moisture transpires through the forest, and eventually when it rises up, it becomes misty, and it'll ride farther up, and pretty soon it'll collect a lot of water molecules in the air from the ocean and wherever they come from, and it'll come back down onto the land. And there is a cycle of water. And that's what Laka is all about, that cycle of water, but also about the procreative value of the forest. Female. So these are, we didn't say Laka ika ohu. Laka ika ohu. Laka is also our deity for hula. And the idea of Laka and transpiration is that the transpiration through the forest moves this way. And as you saw the hula, they all move like this, back and forth. Okay. So these are 3 of our nomenclatures, elemental nomenclatures, and I have 99 more to go. I do. Okay, so this seems to be a time for introduction. So all I'm doing is introducing you to certain areas in the environment, and I'm not going to go for 400 level nomenclature class yet. Okay, this next one is an introduction, and this is a anakohe, or a kohe cave, and this particular feature is found in a cave, and our foundation owns the cave. They own the land on top of the cave, and so therefore we also own this feature that's in the cave. Long time ago, when we didn't own the feature, there were people that used to go in, and they came from all over the world, and we didn't know how they knew about this cave. And they used to go in the cave and have little ceremonies in the cave. I don't know what about. What does this? Maybe hippies, I don't know. But I spent the 1960s in San Francisco. I know about hippies. We were born in that hippie era. Okay, so what does this look like? You know, your doctors, just say it, for goodness sakes. It looks like a vagina. It is a vagina cave, that's what this is. And this is made from, and it's in a lava tube, and there's two sets of lava tube. One sits on top of the other. This one is the one that sits on top of the bottom lava tube. And I guess as the lava was going through it, it was hot enough so that it was beginning to burst out through there, and it started to do that, and then it stopped and just formed this kohe. So you know, when you see, like when you saw the fissures, if you saw any of our eruptions, you see the fissures, this is how they start. They start looking like this. So this is a very female thing. When you come out of the earth like that, being born, that's how our land is born. Okay, that's going way off. I want to introduce to you, besides the kohe, Palekama'i hanao makalolo. Palekama'i means to nullify the vagina and give birth from the brain. This particular line is found in our a genealogical chant we have called the Kumulipo. And the genealogy chant actually begins with the birth of coral polyps. And then it ends with the birth of a high chief. It's not an evolutionary chant. No, it just talks about certain areas on their honua, or on their earth. And they begin with the ocean and food sources in the ocean. And so that's why they begin with the coral polyp. And it'll make a reef, and pretty soon things will grow on it, and people, not people, but fish will come in and eat from there, and they'll build a home and carry on with themselves. But that genealogy chant begins that way, and then it ends with the birth of a high chief. But somewhere in the middle is the birth of the water systems, the aquifers, the basalins, and the wet forest. And then in verse 13, we have this. And you know, when you're doing a genealogical chant, you begin with a male, and then he mates with a female, and they have a male child. And then the next line begins with the male, and then mates with the female, have a male child. So it always begins with a male for genealogy chant. Except for this particular pauku or verse, it goes halfway down in 13, and then it stops. It begins with a female. So something's changing at that particular time in the society. So it begins with the birth of a female. She mates with a male, have a child. Female mates with a male, have a child. Female that mates with a doctor, not with a doctor. Mates with a god. Oh, you wish. Okay, mates with a god, and they have all these female children. Okay, but in that particular chapter also they talk about the preparation of the earth, the topsoil of the earth. And then eventually they go down, and then one of the lines begin with Palekama'i Hana Makalolo. And then it goes to 10 lines. And so that was fun figuring out. What's happening there is that seems to be a female council that's taking over, while the males are, oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm running out of this. Also need to clean it. Wait. Dainty. While the males are off to war and fighting their battles, that's what I always like to say, the females are home thinking. They are. And in this particular line, what it says is, nullify the vagina, which doesn't mean that the men are away, they're going to nullify anybody. These council of women, or females, I should say, not women, because they may be goddesses, or they may be elementals, or high chiefess, whatever, they have high status. They get together and they're thinking, okay, we have to organize this. We have to have a plan, so there's some organization in our universe. Okay, sisters, let's get together. And so they do that. And this particular line tells you that these women are over the childbearing age. So they're nullifying they don't have to think. Thank you. This is my daughter, Kekuhi. She's hiding behind a plant. She used to do that when she was little. So this council of women says, okay, we have to change this. And we have to come up with some kind of plan for our universe. And so they sit down and they talk over it, because they don't really have to. The whole idea of nullifying is that they don't, the Hawaiian divided his body into 3 parts of thinking. So there's 3 different thinking ways. This is where you get your intellect from, and this is associates with the things that inspire you, like your akuas or your kupunas that will inspire your thinking. And so this is the intellect. And then in the chest is the hopo, and the hopo is your relationship with things and people you love and you want to keep close. And then your other cavity in your body is your na'au, and your na'au is down here. And some of us have nice thin na'aus. Some of us have overextended na'aus. It's just lovely anyway. But the na'aus is the thinking from a intuitive sense. And the intuitive sense to the Hawaiian is thinking with ancestral memory. So that when the female gave birth to children from the na'au, the ancestral memory went with each child that was born. And so they believe that each child that is born with the memories of his ancestors. And that sometimes during his life, he's going to remember some of the things that his ancestors did. And something will spark the memory and it'll come back. We were always taught to pay attention to our intuition. And so we did that throughout our life. And I taught my children that, to pay attention to your intuition. Okay, so I'm back with these women. And so they're thinking now, not from their na'au, but they're thinking from their lolo. This is the lolo, the brain is the lolo. And lololo is when your brain is really excellent, very smart. Okay, so that's the way they're thinking from their brain. And the thinking from the brain means that it's not part of the ancestral time or the ancestral past. This is a new thing that's going to come. Okay, so they're getting inspiration from above. And so they go on and they think about it. for a while. I don't know if it takes an hour or a day or 6 months or going from solstice to solstice to solstice, a year or eons. But they come up with a plan, a concept. And the concept what we call today Papaku Makavalu. And Papaku is when you have foundation, substantial foundations. And as I said, substantial foundations, it can be tangible or intangible. But a substantial foundation or substantial foundations that can grow out. And so, for example, a family, a mother and father is a foundation. And then they have 8 children. Makavalu is 8, you grow out 8 times. And then each child becomes their own foundation, and that grows out 8 times. Okay. But this kind of thing can also happen to animals and trees, the wind, the sun, the moon, all of elemental things affect things 8 times and 8 times. And that's one of the reasons we had to deconstruct. We have to come back to the center of the foundation, or the basis of the foundation. Okay, so Papaku Makavalu is having a foundation and growing out from it, eventually being able to come back into it. Now, this is what their plan looked like. Okay, so we see this bird, he's an A, and we call it an A, and they call it in English a booby. But he's sitting, or she's sitting on the earth, and I think she has an egg under her, but she's using the earth as her nesting place. And it's a little bit in the morning, so you see the sun on the head. Okay, and so these 3 things is what we're going to be talking about. They came up with this plan, this concept, to divide their whole universe into 3 sections, which I think is just genius. From females. The first section, Papa Hulilani. Say Papa Hulilani. So when I talked about the 10 lines that this comes from, the Pale Kamai Hanau Makalolo, that's the first of the 10 lines. And these 3 things that you will see are the last 3 lines of the 10 lines. Okay, this is their concept. Papa Hulilani tells you that there is a papa, or there is a foundation of some sort. Okay, Lani, part of it, tells you where the foundation is located. And the foundation is located in the cosmos, in the space above us. Anything from your head up or from the trees up is the space. That is the Lani. Okay, and our Lanis are divided all up into different terms. Again, another breakdown for the cosmos. That's how we break it down. Makavaluing it, that is. Okay, now Papa Hulilani includes, what does it include? Air. And the sun, rain, clouds. Were you up last night? Yeah? The stars, the moon, rainbows, anything that's up there. Okay. I have half an hour more. Or I'm Paul with my half hour. No, we have one. Okay. Okay. Half hour. Okay. Why? Where are you going after the half hour? Spend it with me, for goodness sakes. Then we'll go eat breakfast after that. Papahulilani takes care of all of that. The next section is Papahulihonua. Foundational. What is the foundation? The honua. And what does the honua do? The honua rotates, like the lani rotates. And how did they know that the honua rotates? From a chant. That's how we knew. Okay? They knew that their honua was like the moon and the sun and the stars. It was out there and it floated and it rotated. They knew that. Wow. I think that's more than Columbus knew when he came to America. Yet, didn't they talk about falling off the end of the earth? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you're Italian. Not all Italians are Columbus, you know. Papahulihonua, there was the second section they thought about. And the third section they thought about, Papahanaumoku. Foundation, what is moku? Moku are individuals set off by themselves. How does the mokus come about? They're hanau, they're given birth to. And when I say they're individuals, is when a child is born from the mother, as soon as they cut that cord, he is an individual. It's the same thing with the pigs, and the same thing with a tree. As soon as they drop the seed grows individual. Okay? And so Papahanaumoku means all of those things that are procreated or go through a generative cycle. Things that give birth over and over again. So this is the way they divided up their universe. Yay for the females who initiated this. I think it's genius. You know, and this was eons ago. They didn't have phones, and they didn't have computers, and they didn't know what was going on anyplace else, but they knew what was going on in their world. And this is what they came up with. You know, I just want to cry when I think about it. Smart Hawaiians, females. I gotta get that in, okay. Okay, anyway, this is their division, and I had to introduce that to you. Again, nomenclatures of the environment. Oh, now I'm going to introduce you to me. He did a good job, Dr. Aluli. But I come from a matrilineal tradition of hula and meleoli, as you saw the halau do. That kind of dancing. But that kind of dancing has to do with the environment. It's all about the environment. And in the case of our dancing, our tradition, it's about the environment on this island, and more especially about the fire and about making new land. And so I'm going to go into that right now because I already had a big introduction. And I'm telling you that this comes from a matrilineal line of our family. My mother and her mother and back 7-10 generations. So that you know we're not immigrants, and which is the big topic today. So this is our land, and this is our land giving birth or extending itself. So what we see here is a big cloud of steam. The steam we call Mahu. And the Mahu is coming straight from way down deep in the earth and rising up. And Mahu has all of the senses and all of the things that the deep earth has. So it's very dangerous for us. And that's one of the things I don't want to go into politics. Okay. I was going to talk about our electricity. But The white area that you see in the cloud is lightning. And so lightning happens when this is going on, and thunder. The orangey area is a reflection of the molten earth that's coming out of the earth, and the molten earth is Pelehonuamia. But before I introduce Pelehonuamia, I just wanted to introduce for a short while two of the many kanawais are laws of nature. These are laws of nature that has to do with the eruption. And because we live on this island, that's the dances we do, and that's the dances we've been taught. There's a lot of fire names in our family, so we pay attention to that. But here are two kanawais, or laws, that have to do with the lava flow. Hoki ki kanawai means when there is an eruption and it's flowing, you let it flow. Okay? And you let it flow because you cannot make land and I cannot make land. This is what makes our island. And if we're living on an island, we want more land. This is how to do it. Okay. And so sometimes when we have an eruption and it's coming down near homes, people want to build a big berm so that the lava will go around it. The lava that's coming out now, in Puna, is not going to go around anybody's berm. Okay, it's just going to run it over, cover it, and continue until it gets to the ocean. Okay. So, and other people want to throw in explosives to detract it and move it away from where it's traveling to. Okay, and by this time, practitioners will step in and say, no, you cannot do that. You have to let it flow. And if people are going to build their houses below a volcano where they see steam coming out all the time, 1 + 1 is 2. Oh, I had to say that. I don't know why. But, I'm sorry about people who lost their houses. But we have to measure it. House, more land. Okay. Because as soon as this stops erupting, we're going to start eroding. So the other side of the island has already started to erode. Maui and Oahu, with the beautiful white sand beaches, erosion. We have black rock beaches. We love our black rock beaches. We're not eroding. Okay, anyway. And this is another law of nature for the eruption. Ki ho'i ho'i kanawai. Very fast restoration. So as soon as it erupts and the earth cools right away, things will start growing on it. Moss will start growing on it, lichen that is, will start growing on it, and then the little ferns will start growing on it. And so this eruption, before I took this picture, was there maybe 8 months prior. And then the hardwood trees will start growing on it. And these are the hardwood trees you saw up in the forest. These are the same hardwood trees. These trees are ohia trees. They love the open space. And it'll start growing. But this ohia tree probably grew from a root that had not quite died from the eruption and was still in the ground. All it needed was a little bit sun and hydration and a lot of water. And it started to grow again. So ki ho'i ho'i kanawai, the land comes back to the form that it was in prior to it. Okay. That's the 2 laws. Okay, this is our beautiful Pelehonuamia. And one of the things we look for when it's erupting is the form of a female. So can you see the female? Yeah. Okay, she's looking back up at the lava. Yeah. And so you see the forehead and the eyes and her nose. She has nose like me. It's nice Hawaiian nose. I'm pure Hawaiian, by the way. This is what all pure Hawaiians look like. And then you, bravo, bravo. Yeah, I'm actually a rare animal. And my sister and I, well, I have another sister, we're all rare animals. But, you know, we're in our 80s. And another, bravo, bravo. We're in our 80s, and when I reached 80 years old, I say, wow, I think I beat life. And I've made it. Now I can do whatever I want. But when you get to 80 years old, you cannot do whatever you want. You're too old. Anyway, I only have half hour. Okay, and then you look at this and you see her breast, yeah, and her waist, and then her hips, and then all that hair behind. Yeah. Do you see it or what? Some of you are looking at. Come on, you can see it. Pelehonuamia, she's there. Okay, Pelehonuamia, a female form. Pele is that red molten earth. That's Pele. That's a Hawaiian word for that molten earth. Whether it's magma or whether it's lava, it's Pele. Honuamea is that it's coming out of the earth and it will form the earth. It's earth forming. That's what Pelehonuamia is all along. And Pelehonuamia has a huge mythology attached to it. The next nomenclature is Hi'iaka Ikapoli o Pele. And all of the Hi'iaka names, and we have a long list of Hi'iaka names, are reflections of eruptions. So the Hi'iaka names come right after an eruption, or the use of it comes right after eruption. The idea of Hi'iaka Ikapoli o Pele has to do with the kiho iho ikanawai, that the land is restored quickly. Again, poli o Pele means in the bosom of Pele or on that fresh lava floor, the land will come back and be restored again. And I wanted to introduce this Kauila Nui Makehai Kalani because I want to introduce, and Kauila Nui is the lightning. And the lightning brother, whether it's coming out of the volcano or whether it's coming down from the lani or from the space above us, it's the lightning brother. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about the story of Pele and Hi'iaka, the mythology. When Hi'iaka is growing up and she's a young girl, Pele tells her, oh, you have to go to Kauai and get my lover for me. And it's a man lover that she met eons ago, and so she wants him to be brought to her in Hawaii. And so Hi'iaka says, okay, where is Kauai? And she says, okay, don't worry, you'll get there. And so she sends Hi'iaka on this trip to fetch this man. And when Hi'iaka finally gets to Kauai, and she finally finds out where this man is, she finds that he has died. And she said, oh, I have to take him back. I promised my sister I would take him back. And like that little root that is in the ground that looked like it was dead, but still a little part of it was alive, and it needed the sun and it needed hydration, she's going to do the same thing for this man. And so in order for her to bring him back to life, she covers him with her pa'u, and she calls her brother, Kauila Nui Makehai Kalani. And he sends his lightning bolt from Kilauea on Hawaii Island to Kilauea on Kauai Island, and then to Ha'ena where she is. And the lightning bolt strikes that man that's under the pa'u and shocks him back to life. And I was thinking, wow, how did they know that? I mean, this is eons ago. They knew something that they passed on to us in the mythology. And so we have to pay attention to the mythology as well as to the nomenclatures. Okay, so I just wanted to tell you that part of that story. The next three names really have to do with the lava that's flowing. Kane Milohai. Kane is, again, the heat of the earth. Milo is to move in this form, to twist. Abortion is Milo, to twist. And Ha'i is to break through the earth. And so that eruption that you see back there that's twisting and breaking through the earth is really Kane Milohai. It's a male. Okay? And we have a lot of male earthmakers, and Kane Milohai is one of them that forces the lava to come up straight from the deep earth. Kuha'i Moana is a lava tube and it's breaking not the earth so much, but it's breaking the ocean. And so the lava tube that runs from one hot spot in the ocean to another hot spot in the ocean, and eventually when it gets to a new hot spot, it begins to build that hot spot up. And the cool part of it, okay, until Kane Milohai comes along and pushes it out of the ocean. Namako'okahai is a female, and Namako'okahai is the faults of the fault of the land, of new land, that actually has weak spots, and so it'll crack and break apart, and a big crevice is left. That's Namako'okahai. And sometimes when we have new lava flows and it's not quite strong enough at the ocean, huge chunks of benches of land will fall off into the ocean. That's Namako'okahai. And so these are some of the earthmakers. We have a lot more in there that have their place and their duty as part of earthmakers. But most of the earthmakers are male forms. And when you come to the top of the earth, then they become female forms. But inside of the earth, they're male forms. And my daughter is here, and she's going to tap me on the shoulder. And, oh, okay. I have 10 minutes. Oh, great. Okay, I want to introduce you also to Kapo Ula Kina'u, because Kapo is a different entity. And po means darkness. The ula part of it is like the blood running up, the liquid that runs up and down in your body. The kina'u is blemish, but it's that balance between what is good about you and what is not so good. So looking at things are healthy or not healthy. That's what Kapo Ula Kina'u is. And Kapo Ula Kina'u, in this case, resides within. Have you heard the song? Wait, let's read this part first. The energy that exists within the darkness of a being that encourages the psyche towards survival and the possibility of the greater self is Kapo Ula Kina'u. Have you heard the song, Hello, darkness, my old friend? Everybody's nodding, sing along. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping plants a seed while I am sleeping. And the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. And I thought, wow, Simon and Garfunkel. They're bringing out their kapo'ula. I was just flabbergasted that they knew that much. I mean, that they have that kind of depth. But, you know, but the rest of the song isn't anything like this. But I thought that this part of the song was Kapo Ula Kina'u. And Kapo Ula Kina'u is a subliminal memory within you that triggers things within you that say, don't do this, or do this, or yes, you're familiar with it. Or you can. It encourages your insight. That's Kapo Ula Kina'u. Okay. So one of an example of Kapo'ula Kina'u is her meeting up with Hi'iaka. When Hi'iaka goes on this trip, she goes to Maui. And she's told to look up her older sister, Kapo'ula Kina'u. And she goes to this place, and Kapo'ula Kina'u has just left. And they tell her, oh, she went to tend a chief that is very sick. And so she goes to the chief's house, and she kaheas to her sister, hey, Kapo'ula Kina'u, hikai na'u, pelai. And she kaheas, and Kapo'ula Kina'u answers her and tells her to come in. And when she goes into the house, Kapo'ula has left. And she looks at this chief that Kapo'ula was working on, and he looks like he's going to die. It's like that little root in the ground, only he's way past the root. And she tells the keeper, oh, he's going to pass. And the keeper says, no, he's not. I can call on all my kupunas, and they're going to save him. She said, oh, no, he's gone. And so while they sit there and argue, the man dies. And then she goes to another island, and she finds that her sister Kapo'ula is there. And she goes to the house, and she kaheas to her sister again. And her sister calls her in her mind and tells her to come in. So she goes in, and her sister is gone. And she looks at this girl that her sister is working on. She says, I think I can do something for her. And she works on her for 10 days and hydrates her and uses incantations, etc. And saves her, and she comes back to life. So the idea of Kapo'ula is the subliminal memory, is in that example of the mythology. Okay, I have to get on. Olono e he uala he ua he ua pi mai noe noe halau halau loa olono 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 oi, you are lono. He ua la he ua. This is the way Hilo rains. This is Hilo's rain. It looks like somebody just turned on the shower and it goes. It's not little drops. You don't see the drops, yeah? You just see a continuous flow. In this particular chant, it says, he ua la he ua, it's raining, it's raining. He ua pi mai, it rains so much that rain is always also beginning to flood up or climb up. Noi noi halau, the big clouds are moving in. Halau loa o lono, the long house of Lono are the big clouds. Lono is the Earth's atmosphere. That's what that part is called according to our kupunas. It's called Lono. Lono kulani is when that atmosphere, as we know it, the Earth's atmosphere, is not all the way up to the stars, just the Earth's atmosphere. And Mauna Kea is almost as tall as the Earth's atmosphere. So the Earth's atmosphere, when it's clear, you can see all the way up. That's Lono kulani. When you have a lono nohi kawai, lono that's sitting in the water means you have a lot of clouds up there. So the atmosphere is full of clouds and full of water. When you have lono makua, and lono makua is the lono with the fire stick, is when you have the warm air rising from the land, cold air coming down, and is causing storms. That's lono makua. Okay, so these are the different areas of Lono. So I have to, the atmosphere. But we have lots and lots of Lono names. And if you listen to the chant, they have lots and lots of Hi'iaka names. Okay. Kawaia Kane Lawo Kanaloa. The waters of Kane and Kanaloa is not a nomenclature, but it's a description of water, of Kane and Kanaloa. And Vai is fresh water, Kai is salty water. But the water of Kane is credited for all fresh water because it has to do with the making of the water, which is heat. So all fresh water. The big basins that under the earth, the aquifers and the basalents and the ocean is Kanaloa. Kanaloa waters are the waters that are big and will balance, and it lasts forever. It's always there, but it's there to balance the earth. That's what it's all about. That's Kanaloa. Kanaloa means long-lasting. Okay. Always there. Okay, I think my half hour have been used up. Thank you very much for being here. And I am happy to share, some of the wisdom and knowledge of my kupunas. This is not my wisdom and knowledge. I have almost zero wisdom and knowledge, but I know some of my kupunas, and I am glad that they were able to pass all these down, and that we're making an effort to understand that, and in understanding that, understand our environment. So please have a good time while you're here on my island, and may my kupunas always be with you while you're here, so that you will have a good time, so you will learn as much as possible, so you will be able to complete your mission while you're here in Hawaii. Aloha no. Thank you.